Yo, what's going on? It's your boy Ghost here, and today I am bringing you guys a comparison video between the MP5 and AK74u. Now, this is obviously a multiplayer comparison, so, you know, when Warzone comes out, we might revisit this again, but for right now, we're a multiplayer. Also, if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. We are still kind of grinding. We're slowly waiting for the Warzone integration to come, but right now we're getting by with, you know, multiplayer content. I know a lot of people don't really enjoy seeing Coldwar, but, you know, my apologies. I tried going back to Warzone, but it just feels weird, odd. Me saying that I was going to post Warzone content was kind of a cap, I'm not going to lie. I don't see myself between now and December 10 posting a Warzone video. So, I apologize for that. I'll probably just stick with comparisons up until December 10. Just because I feel like a lot of people enjoy comparisons a lot more than just like a normal gameplay of multiplayer. So we'll just stick with it. But anyways, today's comparison has to do with what I already said, the MP5 and AK74u. The MP5 has been renowned as the overpowered weapon in the game, the best SMG, stuff like that. But slowly, as more people start using other SMGs, the AK74u start getting some love. And, you know, now we're just this, you know, weird dilemma where we don't know what the best SMG is. Now, I will say that the MP5 was nerfed, like, week 1. But then it got unnerfed, oddly enough. But then Treyarch said that taking away the nerf was unintentional and that it's gonna come back. So right now the MP5 that we're currently using is like it's hanging on by a thread, because I think December 10, whenever that whole update comes around, I think the MP5 will go back to getting nerfed. And so, you know, maybe this video isn't applicable, but for now it is. So anyways, with that being said, let's get into the comparison. And here we have the recoil pattern for the AK74u. Now, if you're paying attention at all during the alpha stage of Cold War, you would know that the AK74u was a monster. And during the alpha, or not the alpha, I apologize, the beta time frame, this gun received a nerf. And, you know, it was still pretty good, but guns like the MP5 were able to compete now, and eventually during, you know, when launch came, the MP5 took over the best SMG position. Now I'm starting to see more of this gun in just all aspects of Cold War. I'm seeing it a lot more in pubs. I'm seeing it a lot more in pro players' scrims and whatnot. And I'm just starting to see that the 74u is becoming this one of the more reliable SMGs, and the MP5 kind of taking a step back. So I want to give you guys a little bit of statistics because, you know, I know you guys love that. But so to start, for starters, the base damage for the 74u is 38. If you put on the task force barrel, which is, you know, the last barrel, the one that gives you more damage and stuff like that, it gives you 41 damage. And as for the damage range, the base damage range for the 74u is a 7.62 meters. And then if you put on the task force, it goes all the way up to 11.43. And then if you add on the last suppressor, I think the GRU suppressor, I think that's what it's called, it goes back down to 9.52, which is actually kind of insane if you really think about it. A suppressor essentially brings it down 2 meters. But if you just go with the reinforced barrel plus the GRU suppressor, you have a combined 7.09, so you only go down slightly from the base damage range. And as for the fire rate, the AK74u has a 697 RPM, which is actually not that bad. It's a lot slower in comparison to the MP5, but we'll get to MP5 when we get there. But I want to briefly talk about the barrels, because the task force barrel, in my opinion, isn't that great. Sure, it gives you a lot more damage, and at the end of the day, having more damage is good, but just everything else, I just don't think it's worth it. I don't know. I know it has a lot more range, even with the suppressor, than the reinforced barrel and the suppressor. But I don't think it's that noticeable for me to want to use the task force barrel. I don't know. Some of you guys out there might prefer the task force barrel and strictly use it. But even when I use my ARs, I didn't like it at all and stayed away from it because of how bad the recoil was. Now the SMGs is really not too noticeable compared to an AR, but when I was using the task force barrels with both these weapons, it didn't feel right. The gun felt off, and then I went back to the, you know, the reinforced barrels respectively, and they were so much better. And although it doesn't give you more damage and it gives you overall less damage range, it still feels great. And I don't know. Again, I feel like that's going to come down to personal preference. And in terms of Warzone, I don't know how that's going to play out. I'm really interested to see if in Warzone it's going to be, the difference is going to be noticeable, or the task force is going to be better. But I mean, yes, we'll get there when we get there. With that being said, now let's get into the MP5. And here we have the recoil pattern for the MP5. And I personally think it's a lot more straightforward than the 74u, because the 74u kind of goes, you know, up and then right, while the MP5 just kind of just goes up. But anyway, here's my class setup. For both the 74u and the MP5, I run 6 attachments instead of like all 8 or even 5. I don't like the flashlight. I don't know, flashlight is cool and all, but for me, like as you can see here, as I'm slaying out, the way I aim in, that little just the flashlight right there really annoys me. I don't know, it's just a little thing of mine. Obviously, everyone's gonna be different. More than likely, you guys don't notice it, but for me, it's distracting. I don't know why it is. And then a sight on the SMG, I'm against that 100%. Yes, it can help you at longer ranges, but I don't know, I just can't get behind using a sight. Even though, ironically, in the beta, I use the sight a lot on both my SMGs, the Milano and MP5. But we're past those days now. But anyways, so like I mentioned earlier, this gun right here is still arguably considered one of the best guns in the game. Easily a top 5 gun in the game currently. But, you know, a lot more SMGs are starting to get a little bit more recognition, specifically the 74u. That's why I'm in this video. But, the MP5 is still godlike. I feel like people forget that this weapon is still as good as it was day one. Like, the nerf that it once had is gone. It's going to come back eventually, but right now, it's still the broken MP5 that, you know, we came to hate. But anyways, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of statistics, because, you know, I know you guys dig that. So the base damage for the MP5 is 32, obviously a lot lower than the 74u. And when you put on the task force barrel, it only goes up to 34. So to be honest, this is kind of similar to the AK and the XM4 comparison that I did like last week in terms of the damage difference. The MP5 does have a less damage, but I think the one thing that helps it a lot over the 74u is the fact that it has an 857 RPM or fire rate. So it shoots a lot faster than the 74u, and when it comes to head-on battles, you know, the theoretical 1v1 matches between the 74u and MP5, you know, I think that, you know, the MP5 got it. Just because it shoots faster, and on top of it, it has better damage range. Now, let me get into that for a second. So the damage range, a base damage range is 10.16. If you put on the task force barrel, it goes all the way up to a 15.24. But then if you put on the agency suppressor, it brings it back down to a 12.7. So if you have the agency suppressor and the task force barrel, you're gonna be looking at a 12.7 meter damage range, which isn't bad. But again, I just don't feel comfortable using those type of barrels. And if you feel the same way, if you use a reinforced barrel with the agency suppressor, you're gonna have a 9.45 meter damage range, which is still better than AK74u, and it's not crazy drastically low than the original damage range. So to be honest with you, if I'm you, or if I'm playing this game, I'm always gonna be rocking the reinforced barrel with the last suppressor, whether it's the GRU or agency suppressor. I just feel like it's a more comfortable, more reliable combination. I think the added recoil that the task force barrels do is not worth it. They have like a -20 across the horizontal and vertical recoil, and it's not noticeable on SMGs as it is ARs, but man, is it very, very, very uncomfortable to use it. And it's a lot more reliable, in my opinion, to use just the reinforced barrels with the respective suppressors. Now, before I, you know, go on and finish this video, I want to give you SMG players a salute. If you're playing the Newtown playlist, which I'm sure many of you guys are, I just noticed that SMGs, although this map is small, kind of have a tough time in Newtown. I don't know, maybe it's just me, maybe it's just that I'm trash, but I'm sitting here using the 74u and MP5, and I have to go up against, you know, the M16, the AUG, the AK, the Craig, and it's just not fun. It's not fun, because I don't care how good these two weapons are, going up against these ARs on their little head glitches is so annoying. And honestly, if I'm you, I am staying away from the Newtown playlist unless you want point blanks. I feel like the SMGs are pretty good. You know, I wouldn't say they're better than some of the ARs, but they are pretty good. I do think they do well in normal playlists with the other maps. I know that Nuketown is, in my opinion, I still think it's the best map in the game. Bottom line, I think it's just the best map. But it's also filled with a lot of just weirdos and a lot of just cringe players. And, you know, using SMGs wasn't fun. I did not have fun. My KD suffered. I don't know what it was, but just people like to play weird. And MP5 and AK is meant to rush, but you get punished for rushing in this game. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys later.